That's, I think, Rodman's first offensive rebound of the evening. He had 8 in game 4 and made it such a big difference.
Vinnie. He is capable of heating up just like Jordan shows signs of doing. Vinnie drew the foul. He made the hoop.
You see the reaction from a while on the bench, but what made this play possible is a hard screen by James Edwards. That got Vinnie Edwards into the paint, and he gets his shot the ball, and he has a chance for a three-point play.
And the three-point play is successful.
They're doubling right away, so they're trying to make a pass. Pippen came in, thought he had to steal, and was headed the other way.
The tip is won by the Detroit, surprisingly. Vinnie.
Swings the legs, and when he makes that move, he's thinking about scoring. He's on fire. He's got 7 in the period.
Dumars across the line.
The Bulls haven't controlled any of the ball game since the intermission, but they're still in it. Vinnie Johnson.
He got it. Vinnie now with 15, 9 already in the quarter. There's no quitting them. And they're in a spot to win this game, down by 3. Edwards.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Go School Retro NBA, episode 20. Join me as I deep dive into the iconic career of one of the best bench role players to ever grace the NBA hardwood. And I'm here to talk about New York basketball legend, Detroit Pistons legend, Vinnie Microwave Johnson. If you guys don't know who Vinnie Johnson is, I suggest you stay tuned and watch this whole entire episode because I'm going to drop a lot of knowledge and a lot of jewels on you guys. So let's get it started. Vinnie Johnson was one of the most decorated basketball, college, and bench players ever to grace the hardwood. Johnson, if you guys don't know, was born in Brooklyn, New York, and went to FDR High School in Brooklyn, New York, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and where he would go on to play for McLennan Community College in Waco, Texas. You guys don't know, Vinnie Johnson is a microwave for a reason because this guy was a walking bucket. I'm talking about this guy was instant energy, instant offense. If you guys were going on, if the teams would go on a scoring drought, you insert Vinnie, and he could easily get you 10 to 12, 15 points, easily 16 coming right off the bench with energy, bursts of speed, bursts of athleticism. And the good thing about Vinnie Johnson was that being that he was playing behind Joe Dumars, they were able to actually flip them between, he could replace Isaiah Thomas on those title teams, or he could replace Joe Dumars because he could play a little bit of point and he could play the 2. So he was very versatile and could do a multitude of different things. And Vinnie picked up right where he started with McLennan Community College in Waco, Texas. He averaged 29 points per game and was a NJCAA All-American. And let me tell you, he led that team to the tournament, and he had them playing very, very, very well. He played to finish out the 2 years there, and then he went right across town to Baylor, where he would start off his illustrious college career before touching the NBA hardwood. And let me tell you, he didn't take no shorts. When he went to Baylor, he ended up being one of the school's actually most prolific scorers to this day, because that's just who Vinnie was. Vinnie was a walking bucket, mid-range, taking it to the paint, and athleticism. The guy was just energy. And it's one thing I loved about Vinnie Johnson when you watch his clips and his tapes and all the games he played, especially games against like the Bulls and a lot of good teams. And even one time he was cooking Michael Jordan and the Bulls. But this guy would just go out there and get buckets. That was his name, and that's the reason why he was microwave. And you guys want to know who gave him that nickname? Danny Ainge, because he was instant offense. This guy was just hot as soon as he came in, just like a microwave. And that's the reason why Danny Ainge, formerly of the Boston Celtics, gave him that nickname. Those 2 seasons with Baylor, he was the team's leading scorer, 2-time All-American, averaged 24 points a game. He's the school's records points per game average holder, 3rd in assists, and 15th in points. So this goes to show you the testament of all this hard work that Vinnie Johnson came into the college basketball game, because he's holding records in Baylor, and that's a very good Division I school. To be holding those records just shows you how good of a basketball player Vinnie Johnson was. Like, I want to put you on to, guys, to an illustrious game that he had against TCU, and this was in 1979. And I've watched this countless times, and Vinnie Johnson still leads the team, has actually the team record in points in a game, where he put up 50 points. You guys heard me right, 50 points this man put on TCU. So there's a testament to show you, man, this guy was knocking down records all over Baylor University, and going up against a lot of iconic D1 schools, especially TCU was a pretty good school at that time. To put 50 points in that game just shows you all the hard work, grit and grind, and all New York that Mr. Vinnie Microwave Johnson is all about. He will go on to be picked in the NBA in round 1, pick number 7 for the Seattle Supersonics, where he would play his 2 years before November 1981 being traded to the Detroit Pistons. And let me tell you guys, when he hit the Detroit Pistons scene, that man ended up being so iconic, because he ended up joining some really illustrious players and illustrious teams with those Detroit Pistons teams. You're talking about, he played with Mark Aguirre, Bill Laimbeer, Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas, and they even had a good backup center in James Buddha Edwards, and a young Dennis Rodman, who was a dog in himself in the making, and John Sally. I remember those teams very vividly, because a lot of my family friends were a little bit older, and I was a young kid at the time. And, I would watch games with them, especially like they would record it on the VHS tape, and they would tell me about Vinnie Microwave Johnson, and they would put me on to like how good he was, and like how much of a walking bucket he was at. This guy was a problem. And just for him, being in that company just goes to show you that how far he would take his career. And I'm going to touch on all this, and you guys better stay tuned to this one. During that 82 and 83 season, he would average 15.8 points per game, and would actually start 51 and 82 games. Because he was so good, he would thrust himself into starting roles, and he would actually make a lot of work of it, because this is how good he was. Throughout his career, following that, he would become a key bench player on the Pistons teams, and would be the microwave bucket that he is. And the good thing about Vinnie Microwave Johnson was that you could plug him into any role. Because of his height, he was 6'2", 200. He had the ball handling skills of a point guard, but had the shooting capabilities of a shooting guard. So you could plug him in behind Joe Dumars. If you wanted to sub Joe out, you would put Vinnie in. If you wanted to sub Isaiah Thomas in out, you would put Vinnie in, because he could play make. And where he did a lot of his damage in the mid-range, because that's where he was lethal at, because he could hit the mid-range shot, especially pull up and off the dribble, which is like what his staple of his game was, because that's how gritty he was. And, he was just a phenomenal player, just a guy that could get you a bucket in any moment, any given time, and get hot, on sight. One of his most iconic moments would be on June 14th, 1990, in Game 5 of the NBA Finals versus the Portland Trail Blazers. And those teams used to go to war. If you guys remember Portland had a very good team. They had Kevin Duckworth, Terry Porter, Clyde Drexler, and they were a phenomenal team. And they went to war. They went to Game 5. And I remember that very vividly, because I was watching that as a kid with my uncles, and they always had NBA on NBC on every Sunday, and every other game that they had on national television. And if I could catch it, if I wasn't asleep, I would watch it with them. And I remember that Chuck Daly's drawing up a play, and as they come out of the timeout, Isaiah Thomas gets the ball at the top of the key. Gets the top of the key. He thinks he attacks Terry Porter, but then he notices that in the corner is Vinnie Johnson. And when Vinnie Johnson's in that corner, he passes it to him. Then Jerome Kersey comes a little bit late and starts to close out. Vinnie thinks about passing it, but then he actually takes him off the dribble, which is a staple of his game. And then out of nowhere, he just pulls up and hits one of the most iconic shots of the NBA playoffs. And that moment is relived to this day throughout a lot of platforms. When people interview him and talk about it, they show the clips. And if you guys haven't had a chance to watch it right here, because this is an iconic moment. And this shows you why his nickname was Microwave, because he's a bucket.
Yeah, everybody gets it hard right now. This when they were 7 down just a couple of moments ago. Credit the microwave. 20 seconds left, 90-90, game 5 of the finals. worked down with 10. Isaiah's going to go one-on-one on Porter. Little shake and bake. Right side pass to Vinnie Johnson with 3. DJ against Kersey. Vinnie puts up a 14-footer. It's unbelievable, George, that shot. What guts? What guts?
It's 92-90. The microwave scores with 0.7 seconds left in the...
And after that being the big reason why the Detroit Pistons were able to repeat another title, after he hits that big clutch shot, the celebration began, and then a new nickname would be dubbed. He would be named 007 right after that. It don't get no better than that. It just shows you the amount of the impact that he had in the game. And for them to win that illustrious title, that repeat title, the Detroit Pistons teams, like bad boy teams that dominated, was just another notch under his belt, man. And so now you're going through all the steps that made him who he was. And this guy was just as intelligent as he was on and off the court. And just a champion at heart. And like I always say before, you got to give the bench role players the love that they deserve, because Vinnie Johnson is a staple of that, as many others that I touched on in the past episodes of Gold School Retro NBA. You need winning players like that in moments, because they're going to key in on your big guys, and then the guys that, like Vinnie Johnson, who are the role players, are the ones that get left open, and the ones that usually that have the grit and the heart like he did end up hitting those shots. And that's why 007, Mr. Microwave, was dubbed those nickname, because he had that clutch gene in him while serving as a bench role player throughout most of his career. That's why his nickname is Microwave, and that's why he's 007. He would go on to play the whole 1991 season with the Pistons. After that, he would enter free agency and was signed with the San Antonio Spurs before retiring. So it goes to show you all the hard work. This man is a champion, key bench cog on championship title teams, dominated on the college level, broke records, and just it goes to show you, man, the amount of work that he put in. And if you guys don't know, the reason why he wore that number 15 was because throughout his childhood and all throughout the NBA, his idol in the playgrounds was Earl of Pearl Monroe. He looks up to him, and it was his main motivation for him being an NBA player and wanting to be an NBA player. He tried to model his game a lot. If you look a lot of his game, he kind of modeled and has certain similarities to Earl of Pearl Monroe, because that's just the type of person he was, and that's who he idolized. And I think a lot of people don't know that, so I'm gonna drop the jewels on you guys for that. Just a good little FYI information for you. I like to drop a little jewels on you guys. On February 5th, 1994, he would have his iconic number 15 retired at the iconic Palace of Auburn Hills. So just to show you that how much of an iconic player he was, that he got his number still hanging in Detroit Pistons rafters to this day. And it made me so proud, because, watching him as a kid and then seeing his number retired, especially I root for New York guys. I root for any NBA player that has a great story, but it's extra special when a guy from New York like him, from Brooklyn, New York, receives all those accolades. I just got to tip my hat to Vinnie Microwave Johnson getting his number retired. Salute to you, my brother. Following the ceremony, he was interviewed by a fan, and he was quoted as saying he was honored that they retired the jersey, and it shows all the great things he did for the organization and how humbled he was by it. And I just got to tip my hat to Vinnie Microwave Johnson, because he deserved it. Because without that, hitting that shot, the Detroit Pistons might not repeat their title. And he's enshrined on the rafters for that reason, and he deserves it. After his retirement, not only was he a shrewd player on the court, he was a clever businessman off the court. He founded Piston Automotive, which is a major supplier for Ford and General Motors to this day. So to go show you the success that he has on and off the court, to find a company like that and to find success in it, just shows you how much of a businessman and shrewd man he is off the court as he is on the court. And I got to tip my hat to him. He's actually one of the most wealthiest businessmen post-retirement that ever played in the NBA. People don't know that after that, because he only generated $5 million in his playing day. But let me tell you, he invested his money, and that man was smart up top too. So you got to tip your hat to Vinnie Microwave Johnson for that. He's also a Pistons chairman and chief executive officer as well. He's also a board of directors for Possum Models, JL Automotive joint venture as well. He's also a member of Michigan Minority Development Council and Detroit Chamber of Commerce. So not only he's a smart businessman, man, I'm telling you, this man generated a lot of generational wealth for him and his family. And he does a lot for the community, especially with business development in Michigan. Very active in developing companies and small business owners. And this goes to show you the testament, the type of man he was on and off the court. So you got to tip your hat to him. So this is going to conclude Vinnie Microwave Johnson. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, because I enjoy talking about it, because I grew up as a fan of Vinnie Microwave Johnson. He's one of my most favorite bench role players back in the 90s. And I'm glad you guys are here tuning in, listening to it, and enjoying it as well. So this is going to wrap up Gold School Retro NBA episode 20. Vinnie Microwave Johnson, Mr. Bucket 007. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys haven't followed me, make sure you follow me at Ari Hoops 84 on Twitter, Gold School Retro NBA on YouTube and Spotify, and the links will be below. Thank you guys for always supporting. I love you guys. Stay tuned to the next episode. One love, y'all.